Hi everybody, welcome back to Arma Reforger, and in this video guide I'm going to show you how to use the RPG, and specifically the RPG optical scope, so that you can hit targets from quite a long way away. So we've got our RPG on our shoulder, as you can see here, and the RPG has been fitted with the PGO-7V3 scope. Now, the information I'm going to be giving you in this video is based on an article over on Steam and a few other articles I've read as well, so I'll link to that in the description below this video. And obviously the thing about an RPG is that when you fire it, although it is rocket propelled, it does have quite a loop to it, quite a ballistic path. You know, I mean, bullets do drop, but they don't drop as much as an RPG does. So this is where the optical scope comes in, and the different markings you can see on the scope allow us to gauge the height of a target and gauge the drop of the rocket as well, so we can aim our RPG up so it can hit the target properly. Now, do remember, with left control and right click, we can go back to an iron sight scope, and you can page up and page down to zero this in. But with the iron sight scope, obviously we don't have any type of rangefinder. Now, if there was a digital rangefinder in the game, you could use that to work out distances to targets. But until then, we've got to use the what seem like quite complicated markings on the scope to start off with. But they're not actually, once you kind of understand how they work. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to take a knee, so a little bit more stable. And then when you look down the scope, the crosshair, if I just aim over here, you can see the crosshair to the center top. That is roughly 50 meters away. So if we think a target is 50 meters away, so in other words, it's almost on top of you. Because if a tank's that close, you're like, oh my gosh. You would then fire at it. Now, this tank is probably slightly more than 50 meters away. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to aim towards the top of the turret, and let's see where the rocket. So the rocket hit it dead center. So that kind of gave us an idea. So if you think a tank's about 50 meters away, you can do that. Right, let's just reload. Now, with targets that are further away, where you can't just guess it, we actually use the rangefinder that you see that I'm lining up now. Now, the way that this works is the horizontal line that comes from, if you look at the numbers where it's got 1.5 and 2.4, you line that up with the tracks of the vehicle that you want to figure out how far away it is. And then you look at the curve with the numbers 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and you line the curve up with the top of the vehicle. So as we can see here, that lines up with roughly the number 2. And that means that this tank is roughly 200 meters away. And so this scope, you know, designed to work with the Russian forces, the Soviet forces. They knew they were going to be fighting against Western tanks. Western tanks tend to be a little bit higher than Russian tanks, so that's how this is calibrated. So the second thing we now look at is we now look at the grid pattern on the top of, well, in the middle of the scope. And this grid pattern is very clever because it relates to the weight of the warhead that we're going to fire that's on our RPG. Now, if you look at the bottom right corner of the screen, you'll see that the warhead we have on our RPG at the moment is the PG-7VM warhead. So this is the high explosive anti-tank warhead, or it's one of them anyway, and it's good at light to medium armor. It's not really good at very heavy armor, but for what we have in Reforger at the moment, it's perfect. Now, as we get different warheads in the game, in the vanilla game, or even modded into the game, they will be heavier. So if you can imagine the warhead on an RPG that can take out an Abrams with one shot is going to be significantly heavier than the normal one. So that's why you have this grid. And the grid on the left is for the PG-7VM warhead that we have in the game at the moment, and then the grid in the middle and the grid on the right, that's for the heavier warhead that undoubtedly will be coming down the road. So we line up the tracks with the bottom of that line there. We line up the curve with the top of the tank, and we think this tank here, this sand-coloured tank, is roughly 200 meters away. So if you see on the left hand side where I've now lined it up in the middle of the tank where it says 2, that's 200 meters away. So if we put that towards the center of the tank now, and we'll aim sort of middle turret, when we fire, bang, we hit the tank 200 meters away. But you can really see the curve that we have on the RPG there, and that's what that enables you to do. So again, you line up the bottom of the line with the bottom of the tracks, and the curve line you line it up with the top of the curve. That gives you the number 2, and then we know we have the number 2 there. We take it to the center, and that gives us where the RPG is going to send out. Now, the further you get away, the more difficult this can kind of become, and this is why, with an anti-tank team, if you're taking on Arma, you probably want more than one person with an RPG, so there's a few of you firing your RPGs at the Arma, so you've got the chance that at least one of you will hit. And remember, it's not always about killing the tank, it's damaging the tank, it's getting the tank to go away from where you are or from the area that you're trying to defend, not necessarily about killing it. So let's have a look at, say, this tank here. So if we line up the tracks with the bottom and we scroll across, so the top of it's about 400 meters away, slightly less than 400 meters away, this Abrams. So we know that's the 4 line there. So we come across, bring that to the center, and we'll aim center mass for the tank because it's slightly less than 400, and then we're probably a little bit short with that one. So let's reload. Come back to the center again. So it was that one there, wasn't it? So again, we put the line against the bottom of the tracks, come across, say, actually maybe it's a little bit more than 400 meters, more like 500 meters. So let's go between 4 and 5, about there, bring that across to the center. Oh, slightly over the top that time. So hopefully this is kind of giving you an idea. So let's have one more go with this one. I mean, if you can see how far away that tank is, the fact that we're getting close is quite amazing. So we went a little bit too far. So again, so we would line that up. So let's say it's more like 450, isn't it? So let's line it up, say something like that. Boom, straight onto the top of the tank. And when you look at it like this, you see how far away that tank it was. It was all the way there in the distance. So let's try another one now. Let's see if we can do another. So how about this tank here? So again, we line up the tracks on the bottom of the line, come across. This one is pretty much 400 meters away, that one, isn't it? I'd say that's 400 meters. So we line up, as you can see. So if you look to the left, we're lining up the center of the tank with the 4. Boom, straight onto the top of the tank. Nice and easy. So, as I say, what will happen is, as we get different warheads, in fact, can we reload? No, we need some more rockets. There we go. So, as we get the heavier rockets, we will then probably start to use the scope on the left-hand side. So if we just look at this once more again, so in the scope, if you look on the left-hand side, we can say if a target was 200 meters away, we would do that. 300 meters away, we would do that. 400 meters, 500 meters, 1,000 meters or a kilometer, 1.5 kilometers. If we want to try and hit something 2 kilometers away, we would have to be aiming something like that. So the chances of hitting it are pretty low. And then as we get the heavier warheads, we would use the scope on the right, where, as you can see, it's half, isn't it? So 100 meters, 150 meters, 200 meters, 300 meters. Then that would be 500 meters, that would be 750 meters, and that would be 1 kilometer there. There we go. Now, whenever you see these kind of curved height markings on a scope, if it's a rifle, like an assault rifle or a sniper rifle, that relates to the height of a person. And we kind of say that height of a person is roughly 1.8 or 2 meters. And that's how they work that out. But with this scope for the RPG, because the RPG is really for use against armor, it's done off the height of an armored vehicle. So there we go. We've got to do one more, haven't we? What should we do? Should we really take this long shot here? Let's have a look, see if we can do this. What do we reckon? 600 meters away, I reckon. Oh, this is... I don't think we'll hit this shot. So that'd be something like that, wouldn't it? Let's see. Oh, over the top. Here we go. Let's just check that distance again. Oh, maybe it's more like 500 meters. Okay, one more go. Let's aim there. Oh, I think we've got a hit there. We might have to get our binoculars out to double check. But hey, let's just say it was a hit. So there we go. Hopefully you find this video useful. If you have, hit like. If you want to see more of the same, press subscribe. And of course, I'll see you again soon.